You are absolutely, much like me, on the spectrum of autism. Correct? Are you officially or unofficially diagnosed?
I have never been diagnosed. I've never examined.
Neither have I. But let's be real.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, people have been saying this to me more lately. I guess because like it's kind of a thing that's just kind of like in the air more, that people are like more aware of autism.
Well, it's in the vaccines technically, but yeah.
Yeah, well, people talk about the idea of people being on the spectrum and people sort of being kind of like low-key autistic and all this kind of stuff. Like it's just much more sort of part of the cultural conversation now, like in the last, few years even, than it used to be. So, but I never sort of think of myself as that way. Like, I mean, I think of myself as being like I'm pretty eccentric, right? I feel like isn't that enough, right? Like,
yeah, that's fair. Well, that's a good point. I get criticized for calling people autistic too much, and that is fair. Because on the one hand, there's a specific reason I use autism and talk about autism as like a descriptor. Like to be like autistic is very vertical thinking.
Yeah.
Surely you've seen JReg's greatest video of all time, the autismophrenia.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a good video. And I agree. Like, I think that's probably one of the best things that he's done. But like, that's useful as just like, I mean, it's not a scientific diagnosis.
Correct. Yeah.
That people tend to be one of two ways, right? And I do think that like within JReg's frame of the autism schizo sort of dichotomy, yeah, I'm more on the autistic side in the sense that I tend to be hyper fixated on certain things. And I'm obviously in like the videos that I make and all that kind of stuff. Like I like to research, I like to dive down. And I'm not as good at making connections between things. I never have been. It's just
that is what. Yeah, I'm not. When I talk about autism, I'm so fundamentally unconcerned with whether or not someone is diagnosed. I mean it in that framework, autism versus schizophrenia. The vertical thinker that goes details, and then the horizontal thinker who connects things. Because I'm certainly, I guess it's always relative. Like relative to some of my friends, I'm the autist and they're the schizo.
Yeah.
Relative, like Richard Dawkins and Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson's clearly the schizo. Dawkins clearly the autist.
Yeah.
Between me and Destiny, I'm clearly the schizo. He's the autist. Between you and I'm definitely the schizo. You're more the autist. But just as a side note, there are autistic people who advocate for using the term autism more as an adjective rather than a medical diagnosis. For that reason, is like there are autistic ways of thinking.
Yeah.
Ian McGilchrist, who's a Oxford or Cambridge psychiatrist or something like that, credible person, very straight shooter, says that our culture is autistic because we put all this elevation on like, well, what do you mean woman? Like define it. It's like, that's not how people work. And that was my whole disagreement about vibes versus logic with Destiny. But to your point, because you asked about my most recent video, I think this is a fundamental difference here. The meme war update.